What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the second video in a row. Consistency, I know. So just to give you a bit of backstory on this channel, I started it a few years back and mainly wanted to answer the questions that I originally had when I first started training, and a lot of them have been based around like weight loss, and that's going through my video archive. That is what a lot of videos have been about. So in today's video, I'm going to go over what I feel are the fundamental aspects that you need to consider and implement into your routine if muscle growth is one of your goals and if you want to build a bigger physique. Now this video is going to be broken down into 3 sections, and we're going to be going through them section by section, but then each one of these sections have subcategories in that all correlate and are relevant within each other. But I think that's enough of the intro. Let's get the video started. As always, intro, let's go.
To grow up, but I don't have a choice.
So, in order for you to build muscle, your body needs to be in an anabolic state. Now, don't freak out and think steroids because of anabolic. Anabolic is just a term to describe the state of growth that your body will be in as a result of being in a calorie surplus, i.e. eating more calories than you expend. In the same way that being in a calorie deficit for weight loss puts your body into a catabolic state, meaning the state of breakdown. Now the next question that you're going to have would be, but Connor, how many calories do I need to be eating in order to be in a calorie surplus? There's a very simple answer to that. All you're going to do is take your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expenditure, and just increase it by 10 to 15% depending on how fast you want results. 15 being at the far end or the maximum that I would go. So if I was to visually represent this with graphs, which I seem to love doing on this channel, your calories would look something like this. So you have your TDEE of 2000, which is just how many calories you need per day in order to maintain current body weight. You would increase that, let's say, by 10%, which would then take your new calories to 2,250, and voila, you're in a calorie surplus. And from here, you're going to need to know the breakdown of your macronutrients, these being your proteins, carbs, and fats. Now, something we're going to go over later on in the video is the importance of protein intake in terms of building muscle. Fats and carbs can be interchangeable. It doesn't really matter because they can change on a daily basis. But for a recommendation, this is how I would structure my macronutrients, or the breakdown of them based on my TDEE. So as you can see, protein is at 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. Fat is at 20% of overall TDEE. Once you work out the calorie content for both of them, plus them together, minus it from your TDEE, and then the remaining calories can be divided by 4, and that will be how many grams of carbs you will be eating. If you want a more in-depth version of how to work out the exact macronutrients that you will need for whether you want to gain weight or lose weight, I'll put a link in the description down below, where I actually did a 15-minute video taking you through each step individually and step by step of how to work out your specific macronutrient breakdown and calorie content. So yeah, go check that out if you need to. When you go into the gym and perform any exercise, whether it's bench press, squat, deadlift, anything, what you're doing is causing micro tears to your muscle fibers. And when you're at home and you've left the gym a few hours later, whether you're eating a meal or watching something on TV, your body will start to begin a process called muscle protein synthesis, which is your body's way of building muscle. This is when your body will start to produce proteins within itself in order to help repair damaged muscle fibers and help them adapt to the stimulation that you've just put them under, i.e. the workout that you've just done. What I do quickly want to mention before we carry on is that in order for muscle protein synthesis to occur, you need to be in a positive nitrogen balance. And this just means the intake of nitrogen into your body needs to be greater than the loss of nitrogen. But if the former is greater than the latter, then you enter what's known as muscle protein breakdown. And this is where your body will start to pull proteins from lean muscle and organs in order to extract the nitrogen that it needs, which can result in muscle loss and potential injuries. And it's why it's so important that you need to consume an adequate amount of protein for you specifically and for your specific needs, not just a generic number. Now with that out of the way, let's get back into building muscle. I want you to remember 3 terms: metabolic stress, mechanical tension, and muscle damage. When your muscles are put under constant stress through intense workouts or training, a process occurs in your body called metabolite accumulation. And this is where a variety of chemicals are released into the muscle group or muscle groups that you have just worked that can leave it feeling sore post-workout. And this is also known as lactic acid. The idea of metabolic stress is to keep the workout intensity as high as you possibly can, and you can do this through decreased rest periods, supersetting, time under tension, and you can even add in additional sets or some extra reps for those sets. Unlike metabolic stress, where you would use a lighter weight and aim for higher rep ranges like 12 to 15s, mechanical tension is all about going heavy. Every muscle group in your body has what's known as mechanosensors, and what these are they sense the amount of force that a muscle is being placed under and for how long it sustains that tension. Think of it like this: there are eccentric portions of a rep and concentric portions of a rep. Eccentric is lengthening of the muscle fiber, and concentric is shortening of the muscle fiber. Now, take an exercise like the bench press, for example, and imagine we're lifting at 85% of our 1 rep max, which is a good amount of weight. That is relatively heavy for any individual. And when we lower that bar to our chest for, let's say, 3 seconds, we're increasing the tension throughout the eccentric or the negative portion of that rep. Now, when we get to the bottom, what we're going to do is explode up really fast for the concentric. Through this, what we are doing is increasing the tension that we place on the negative portion or the eccentric portion of the movement, so the lengthening of the muscle fibers. Now, this is where most muscle damage and tears to the muscle fibers is going to occur, so we place a higher emphasis on increasing as much tension on this portion of the rep as possible. And the reason we explode on the concentric portion of the movement is because if we were to do a 3-second negative and a 3-second positive or concentric portion of the movement, we run the risk of fatigue, and when that happens, we'll have to lighten the weight in order to carry on with the amount of reps that we're setting out for sets. And at that point, we're going back into metabolic stress with lighter weight and a higher rep range, so it defeats the purpose of going heavy and applying mechanical tension. So the rule of thumb is keep the negative slow, keep it controlled, and keep the concentric nice and explosive. That way we increase the most amount of muscle fibers but decrease the risk of fatigue. And lastly, we have muscle damage. And the idea behind this is to completely exhaust the muscle group to the point of absolute failure, where 1 more rep seems impossible to get. And you can achieve this 1 or 2 ways. The first is through drop sets. So an example of this is, let's take bicep curls. I'm doing bicep curls with 10 kilo dumbbells. I go for 10 reps. At 10 reps, I cannot physically get an 11th one out. So then I jump down to 8 kilos. I do as many reps as I can with that until again I can't get a single rep out with them. Then I drop down to 6 kilos. And let's say I get 4 to 5 reps of 6 kilos and I physically can't get another rep out. This is drop sets. So even though you can't get another rep out with 10 kilos, you are able to lighten the load and get extra reps and tear down extra muscle fibers through dropping the weight and just going for more reps. Then once you get to the point where you cannot do another rep, that's where you can implement forced reps into. Now ideally this works better with a training partner, but you can do it on your own. And the idea behind this is that if I couldn't get another rep out with bicep curls, training partner would lift the weight up and I would control the negative. Again, we're going back to the eccentric part of the movement is the most important. So we're being helped up on the easy part, and then we're controlling the way down and making sure that we've got that portion of the rep, and then we just go for as many as we can with them to the point where the training partner is lifting more than you are. Now that's the science of all 3 methods done. I want to put it into a practical sense, and it's going to start with a resistance band. So this resistance band is your muscle fiber. Now all 3 methods go on the premise of lengthening, so the eccentric, and shortening, the concentric. With metabolic stress, the idea is how many times we can lengthen and shorten those muscle fibers within a given set. Mechanical tension is all about how long we can hold and keep tension on that muscle fiber. Remember, prioritizing the eccentric or the lengthening portion of that movement. So it would be a long eccentric and then a short concentric. Long eccentric and explode up. And then muscle damage is just about completely fucking your muscle fibre to the point of failure. Easy. If I were to prioritise everything that we're going to cover in this video, I would put recovery at the top of that list along with calorie and protein intake. So imagine this bottle represents your muscles. When the bottle is full, we're running at an optimal level of efficiency. And when we work out, we start to empty that bottle, i.e. we start exhausting the muscles. At the point of completely exhausting your muscles or emptying the bottle, in this example, you would then give yourself or allow yourself 48 to 72 hours, enough time for that muscle group to fully recover, i.e. for the bottle to become full and for you to start running at an optimal efficiency once again. And if you were to go back into training without giving your muscles an adequate amount of time to recover, you run the risk of a higher chance of injury, which could put you out of the gym and training for several weeks or several months, which just puts you on the back foot straight away. And secondly, you're not gonna have the best workout. You just won't be able to perform at your absolute best. And when we look to building muscle, it's all about progressively overloading those workouts, which won't happen if you're going in not being able to perform at an optimal level. So make sure you're getting your recovery, and again, this is another reason why calorie and protein intake are so important. Because if you haven't put it together by now, recovery stems from the occurrence of muscle protein synthesis, which we touched on earlier in the video. So you need to make sure not only are you getting enough recovery, you're also getting in your calories, and more specifically, your protein for every day. Let's say I take you into the gym for a free PT session and you've never trained a day in your life. So you have no idea what weight to start with, you have no idea how many reps or sets to go with, and you don't even know when to increase said weight. And from here I'll get you doing box squats at about 10 inches, so about this high, and I give you 3 sets of 10 reps to do. And at the end of every single set, I said to you on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being extremely easy, 10 being you couldn't get another rep out, how hard was it? And you say to me, well, every single set was about an 8 out of 10, it was really difficult. This is also known as your rate of perceived exertion. This is what we're going to be gauging progressive overload on. So it's been a few weeks now and you've been going to the gym fairly frequently, and we have another PT session and we go back in and I set the boxes up to 10 inches, I get you doing another 3 sets of 10 reps. But this time when I ask you, scale of 1 to 10, how hard was it? You say to me, well, that's about a 3 or a 4 now, it's getting fairly easier. Okay, fantastic, you've made progression. So from here, to make the exercise harder again, I can do a few things. I can get you holding a weight, I can get you going down slower, I can add more sets in, I can make you do more reps per set, or I can lower the box that you're on to maybe half the height that it is. So now the exercise is twice as hard. What we're doing here is what's known as progressive overload, and we're increasing the total work volume that you have to do. And you can do this through the increase of weight, through the increase of range of motion. So again, making that box lower, so you have to go down further. You can do it through paused reps, so pausing at the bottom. You can do it by increasing the weight. There's a number of things that you can do to increase the difficulty of a workout or an exercise. So what we do is we halve the box. So now you're doing box squats to 5 inches, and I get you doing another 3 sets of 10 reps. Again, I say to you, scale of 1 to 10, how hard was that? And you say, well, now it's back up to about an 8 out of 10 again. All of them were relatively hard because now you've had to go down a lot further, therefore increasing the range of motion for said exercise. And from there, we can even take the box away completely and get you doing some full bodyweight squats. We could then increase that to maybe you holding a weight in your hand, and then eventually when you've built up a good core and your form's spot on, we can get you with an Olympic barbell of 20 kilos and start to increase the weight on that. This is progressive overload. And the reason we implement progressive overload is, if you remember earlier in the video, I said that muscle protein synthesis not only helps repair damaged muscle fibers, but it also helps them adapt to the stimulation that you've just put them under, i.e. the workout that you've just done. And if we go into the gym day in, day out and perform the exact same workouts, not so much exercise selection, but more about how much weight we're lifting, for how many reps, how many sets, and how we're performing an exercise, exercise, our body will adapt to that. And once we adapt to it and we don't push past that, we have no reason to stimulate that muscle again or even build muscle upon that. So the key thing here to remember is whatever you're doing in the gym, you need to make sure that every single week it's getting harder and harder. Whether you're adding 50 meters on to your sprints, whether you're lifting more weight, whether you're performing a very complex movement, it doesn't matter. As long as week to week your total workout volume is increasing. So training splits are going to be how you separate your muscle groups into individual workouts and how you'll batch them together. And ideally, the training split that you decide to do should fit around your lifestyle and not the other way around. Think of it like this: if you decide to follow a training split that makes you train 6 times a week, but you have a full-time job, maybe you have a family or other outside commitments, how realistic is it that you're going to hit all 6 of those sessions throughout the week? At that point, it's somewhat unsustainable, isn't it? So you need to make sure that what you're setting yourself is realistic for what you can do based on your current lifestyle. There are a few things to remember when choosing or creating your own training split. The first one is sustainability. What we've just spoke about, making sure that it fits around your lifestyle so you can hit every single session week in, week out. So then you're not disheartened if you miss a session or if you have to skip out on a session, because if that happens week to week, it can get quite annoying. And next, you need to make sure that the training split that you're deciding to follow allows you an adequate amount of rest and recovery in between workouts. And thirdly, what I think is a key factor in any good training split is that it needs to consist of all 3 training methods that we spoke about earlier, these being metabolic stress, mechanical tension, and muscle damage. Each hold a unique way of building muscle within your body. So it's very important that you implement all 3 of them for a complete training program. And lastly, just have fun with the training splits that you're doing. Don't be afraid to experiment. If you're following one and you don't like it, you can just follow another one. It's what I do all the time, but luckily I've nailed down the ones that I like. But genuinely, just follow 1-2 weeks at a time, and after 6 or 8 or 10 weeks and you've done a fair few of them, choose which one works best for you. Follow that. When you get bored, change it up. If you've made it this far into the video, you're probably sitting there thinking, Connor, how on earth is sleep going to impact whether I build muscle? When I was researching this video, I was shocked to find out how many people, not only in the UK, but also in the US, suffer from sleeping disorders as a result of getting inadequate sleep. And the effect that this can have on whether we build muscle is the impact and effect that the lack of sleep can have on testosterone production. And if you didn't know, testosterone is our body's main anabolic hormone, meaning it's the thing that we use most for muscle growth. Now, men have 10 times the amount of testosterone as women, but it can impact them on the same level. They're taking out the physiological effects that sleep deprivation can have on us. Let's talk about it pragmatically. So someone who suffers from the lack of sleep could develop relatively bad habits. And this could be an example of maybe you woke up late and you couldn't prep a meal before you went to work, and now you're living off fast foods for the day, which is relatively unhealthy and not beneficial in terms of hitting your protein intake because it's all junk food. But not only that, if someone is getting inadequate sleep, they're more tired throughout the day, and they're more likely to miss training sessions. And let's say this happens once or twice a week, you're essentially halving the progress that you could be making. So this is why it's important, not only for a physiological side of things, what's going on internally, but for the external factors that the lack of sleep or tiredness can cause on us, on our day-to-day routines, in creating very bad habits that don't help us reach our end goal or optimize our training and performance. And take this from someone who up until a few weeks ago was used to getting 3.5 to 4 hours sleep per night. It's not ideal, it's not good, and I can tell you now from honestly the bottom of my heart that since I've been getting like 6 to 7 hours of sleep a night, even though the recommendations are 7 to 9, not quite there yet, even on the increase of 3 hours sleep per night, my training has skyrocketed. I feel more motivated, more energetic, and the fact that I'm training 4 in the morning, I need every bit of motivation I can. A monster and a pre-workout isn't going to cut it, so sleep, very important. Anyway, I'm going to bring the video to a close there. As always, I hope you enjoyed it and I really hope you've learned something from it. As I said earlier in the video, everything that I referred to will be linked down in the description, and I've also put a link to my website where I've got some training programs on sale at the moment for you guys, or just some workouts that you can do for absolutely free if you're planning on getting into the gym and you're new to it. Maybe a free workout would help out. Yeah, that's on there. Go download it. Absolutely free. Doesn't cost a penny. Anyway, I'm going to go now, get ready to see the new Sonic movie, which I am not looking forward to, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.